This video is about how to translate the Aorist. You can follow along in Atanasda, Chapter 11 Alpha, pages 178 to 181. So to understand how to translate the Greek Aorist, we have to learn about tense versus aspect. Tense, you probably already know, refers to when the action of the verb takes place, so it's about time, either present time, or past time, or future time. Aspect is probably new to you. This is either simple action or an ongoing action, which we call progressive. So the simple action in present time you designate with English I walk, as opposed to a progressive, i.e. ongoing action in present time, you use in English I am walking. Let's make the same contrast in past time. Simple action in the past in English is I walked, as opposed to an ongoing action in the past, which is I was walking. This is the past progressive. And in both English and Greek, the past progressive tense gets a special name, which is the imperfect. And in Greek, this is a special form as well. The imperfect tense is different from the aorist, which can be used to express the simple past. So let's look more specifically at what the tenses mean for Greek in terms of aspect. So the present tense usually has progressive aspect. In the indicative, it can also have simple aspect. So, for example, meno, present tense, can either have a progressive aspect, which you would translate with English I am waiting, or it can have a simple aspect, which you can translate with I wait. For the Greek aorist, it always has a simple aspect. It's from the word horos, boundaries, plus the alpha privative, which means no boundaries. Just like the infinitive is not bounded by person and number, the aorist is only about a simple action. You have no concern for how long this action is going on. Sometimes the aorist refers to past time, specifically in the indicative. It doesn't always have to do anything with time. It always has simple aspect. It often talks about past time, but sometimes not. So, for an example from the indicative, past time, simple aspect, emena, aorist is I waited. If you want to say progressive aspect in the past time, you have to use a different tense. So now let's look at how aspect and mood come together in the Greek. So for the present tense, let's say that it's usually progressive, and for the aorist, let's say that it's always simple. For the indicative, if I want to use the verb monthano, that's the Greek present tense, it usually has a progressive aspect, I am learning. You can sometimes translate it with the English simple present, such as I learn. The aorist always has a simple aspect, usually talking about past tense in the indicative, so emathon, the aorist indicative, would be plain old I learned. There is a not too common usage of the aorist indicative, which is still simple in aspect, but present in time. And this you use for things like aphorisms. So the example aphorism here is, a fool learns by experiencing. So this is still simple aspect, because aorist is always simple aspect, but it's not really about past time. This one is more of a generic present tense statement. For this use of the aorist, for simple aspect but present time, usually seen in aphorisms, it's called the gnomic aorist. but I'm going to delete that and replace it with the more common one, which is simple past, I learned. For the imperatives, present versus aorist is strictly a difference between progressive and simple. So the present imperative is progressive, which refers to an ongoing action. Listen to the story, it's an ongoing action. As opposed to aorist, take my hand, which is a simple command. If you cared about expressing this as an ongoing action, you would use the present, but if you don't care and you just want to give a command, you use the aorist. The same thing applies for the infinitives. If you care about expressing that it's an ongoing action, then you use the present infinitive. So in this example, it is necessary for us to be sleeping. If you don't care about expressing that it's ongoing, you use the aorist infinitive for a simple statement. In this example, Dicæopolis persuaded Grandpa to return home. Simple statement, aorist infinitive. For our last category here, we're going to look at participles. The present participle is always progressive, so this is something like Melissa while carrying the water jar. So while she is in the process of carrying the water jar, ongoing action, something else happens. For the aorist participle, it's usually used for simple aspect and specifically referring to an action that is completed before the main verb. So in this example, we have a main verb in the aorist tense, apon, and ta genomena, the aorist participle, means that that is completed before apon. So you would translate this with, they told him, so this is the past tense main verb, they told him. Now we want a participle that's completed before they told, which in English we do with had. They told him all the things that had happened. So that the things that had happened is completed before apon, the main verb. So that is the common usage of the aorist participle. It's simple aspect completed before the main verb. Every once in a while it's just simple aspect, and maybe it's happening at the same time as the main verb. So the example here is apokrinomenos epe, which is answering thus, he said blah 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 blah. So it's possible, as you see, for the participle to just mean simple aspect, but most of the time it's simple aspect and completed before the main verb. So I'm going to erase that one and give us back the more common one. There you have the aorist, what it means for each of the 4 moods, or really the 2 real moods and our 2 pretend fake moods. The end.